And joining me right now here on a Thursday to go over the latest on UCF football is my good friends Eric Lopez with Black and Gold Banneret, and yes, Trace Trylko with Sons of UCF. I'll start with Eric. Eric, how you doing today?
We're hanging in there. Each day it's a little better, but it was a rough weekend there. It was a rough weekend for UCF fans.
Yeah, Trace, how about you?
Doing well, Mark. Happy holidays to you and all of your listeners.
All right, let's start with Trace. You were there. What was it like last Saturday?
That was fun, Mark. Nothing quite like that. Watching you burn a true freshman's red shirt in Thomas Castellanos, while the more capable quarterback sits on the sidelines, and Mikey Keene watching in street clothes. Let's see, the Knights battle back down by 3, and then the defense just doesn't show up. Knights lose. And as everybody expected and has been clamoring for, a Military Bowl bid on a Wednesday afternoon in late December in Annapolis, Maryland against Duke. That's what we've all been talking about.
What was it like? You're on the field. They rush the field. Tulane wins. Was that just a weird feeling for you?
Having been on the field for previous successful American Athletic Conference Championship wins by UCF, it was different. I wanted to get out of the fracas, a wild scene. Give credit to Tulane and its fans, especially its student section, for turning out at Ullman Stadium on Saturday. UCF fans were certainly loud in that first game a couple of weeks ago. They were outnumbered significantly on Saturday in New Orleans. But I wanted to get out of that, but they were having a good time. And I'd say if there's a program to wish well to as UCF leaves the American, I'm certainly fine with wishing Tulane well.
All right, Eric, you do your great post-game show. What was that experience like after losing that game?
Tough. It was very difficult. It was a lot of emotion from fans, a lot of frustrations, lots of controversy, questions about some of the things that happened in the game. What happened to the defense? Was it scheme or not? Obviously, the burning of Thomas Castellanos' red shirt at quarterback because Mikey Keene opted not to play in the game, which that in itself has become a polarizing topic. And, oh, by the way, UCF volleyball got knocked out in the second round during that same time. So that was a double whammy there for UCF athletics. But it was tough. I mean, in a lot of ways, it described the whole season, I thought, in that ups and downs, peaks and valleys during the game, questions about the quarterback and drama around the quarterback position. In a lot of ways, that game described the entire 2022 UCF football season.
All right, this is going to be a tough one. When I look at my Chicago Bulls, the history is in 1990, the migraine game, where it's Scottie Pippen can't go game 7 at Detroit. He gets the migraine. They can't win. They can't play. Is that how this is going to be remembered? That one quarterback didn't play? Like, I'll start with you, Trace. How are you going to remember this football game now?
I think that's it's an interesting question. You certainly think, Eric said, polarizing situation around the quarterback and around Mikey Keene. I think history will bear out amongst rational fans. And of course, every fan base has 100% rational fans. They're going to remember how he came off the bench in replacement of Dylan Gabriel when he was injured, led the team to that Gasparilla Bowl victory over Florida. I think they'll remember that. They'll remember that he came off the bench to defeat Cincinnati, won on the road at Memphis, rallied the troops a week earlier in Tampa, but his legacy will be diminished by a certain percentage of the fan base, knowing that a healthy Mikey Keene was sitting on the sidelines watching. I don't know that changes what the defense was not able to do, but perhaps with some longer, more sustained drives. Certainly did not experience those with Thomas Castellanos, the true freshman, out there, 2 of 8 for 7 yards. 7 yards more than you, Mark. He had 7 more yards than you on Saturday. Perhaps some better drives there, and maybe the defense isn't on the field as much. It's going to be a what if, as Eric said, a lot of inconsistencies this season that all manifested themselves in that final game in the American Athletic Conference.
Okay, Eric, you've been simmering on this for a couple days. I know in the moment you're doing post-game. What about now when you look at the quarterback position?
I still think it was a decision he might end up regretting down the road because we've all played sports, and one of the goals is you play for championships. That's not guaranteed. I understand you gave that up for an extra year to play somewhere else. That's not guaranteed either. There's no guarantees you're going to play somewhere else 2 years. I'm fascinated to know how the players internally felt about it. I thought Trace broke it down pretty well, and nationally, he's going to be remembered to some extent for that. I mean, Mark, you watched the telecast. He got pretty much criticized on the telecast without being criticized. Like, you could tell by the tone by Tom Luginbill in the broadcast that, yeah, he gave up the championship game. It was his choice. It was not a good look. And it was bizarre because he was there with the team too. It's not like so the whole thing's bizarre. Now, in his defense, I don't think he'll be the last player to do this. And if people are upset about this now, and one thing I thought about is wait until the playoff. Can you imagine if the 12-team playoff was in existence now and UCF was playing for a playoff spot and Mikey Keene opted out? How would the fan reaction have been at that point? Would our perception be different? It's going to be a topic in college football, I think, not just UCF, but across the board as we move forward and expand the playoff. Are more guys going to opt out? It's going to be a bad look, whether they realize it or not.
Okay, if I look at the history of UCF in the conference championship game, has the defense ever played well? Because let's see, so 17 Memphis, they go to overtime in a crazy game. 18, they have Memphis has the huge lead, and then Matt goes crazy in the second half running the football, especially a quarterback. I don't think they've ever played well.
2010, we shut down SMU, won I think 17-7 to win the Conference USA Championship. That's about it. Outside of that, you're right, though. We have defensively, they've struggled in these Conference Championship games, and we still haven't won a road Conference Championship game, which could be a problem in the Big 12 because in the Big 12, we play in neutral sites. There is no home field advantage in Big 12 championships.
Okay, Trace, what happened to the defense in this football?
Yeah, Trace, what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Well, a lot of this conversation, and that's what fans do and people who talk about it, is all about what UCF didn't do right. I do think we should give Tulane credit for what it did right, and it had a fairly consistent season. Let's remember that Tulane also has a road win against Kansas State on its record. They played well throughout the season. Tyjae Spears, they did a better job of containing him in a win a couple of weeks ago in New Orleans. They did not have an eye on him very much. 75 points, if I'm not mistaken, over the last 6 quarters UCF gave up in Tampa and then in New Orleans. I think there's some soul searching on the part of folks like Eric, myself, and others that cover the team. We don't have a lot to go on in spring camp, in preseason camp. UCF limits your practice viewing, also limits the availability to players. You get player speak, you get coach speak. Maybe we do a little bit of, boy, the offensive line looks good and the DBs look good and they're going to be the strongest part of the team. And then you got to see how the games play out. So, we do a little bit of being positive about the team. Someone who covered the team during 2015, it's hard to come back to a microphone every week and talk about a loss. So you want to be upbeat and positive. Maybe they just are what they are, an inconsistent team that was plagued with penalties early on in the season, turnovers at different points in the season. You're going to hear Gus Malzahn, head coach Gus Malzahn, criticized for how he handled the quarterbacks. Remember, Mikey doesn't play in that AAC championship game because he'd already played in 4. I don't think anybody expected him to come off the bench against Navy at home on senior day and up 31-7. You shouldn't have needed him coming in to bail things out. I know in replace of an injured John Rice Plumlee, but you shouldn't have needed him in Tampa either. So he was put into a bit of a difficult position as well. You should have had him saved for an AAC championship game.
You know what's weird? So John Rice Plumlee comes back into the game. Everyone knows he can't run, right? Then he doesn't play bad staying in the pocket. That might have been his best performance, sitting in the pocket. That's what I don't understand about the game plan. Why do, if you know he's injury prone running the football, why was, Eric, I will ask you this, why was it that the game plan from the start then to keep him in the pocket?
I think because they wanted to use the same game plan they did in the first meeting, which is with the quarterback and running on Tulane, except it didn't work. John Rice Plumlee wasn't healthy. And I think Gus probably in retrospect overreacted on the 4th down play where John Rice couldn't run and get the first down. When he should have handed it off to Bowser, really. And he probably stuck with Thomas Castellanos too long because I think he brought him in. He's like, you know what? He can run the same offense because he's just as great of a runner. And not thinking, hey, I got to throw the football. I thought Plumlee was very good from the pocket. And I think if there's a positive here, Mark, is John Rice Plumlee announced on Monday he'll be back. And I don't think it was an act. And I thought it was funny that he announced that the same day that Jordan Travis, the Florida State quarterback, announced he's coming back. Because I think both of them have had similar tracks. Both transferred to their respective places. Both have been criticized. Hey, can they throw the ball? Are they the right guy? They both had to compete for the quarterback job against a sentimental guy. Jordan Travis has turned into a top-notch quarterback. I think John Rice Plumlee will be your starting quarterback next year. And I think more importantly, UCF cannot afford to have any more drama at the quarterback position. That defined this season. And Trace was talking about maybe we weren't realistic with this team. I don't think the quarterback situation helped the circumstances. This team was in position to host a championship game if they beat Navy. It wasn't like they were that far off. And I just think the quarterback situation was just, trying to redshirt this guy, trying to redshirt that guy, trying to do this. It just was too much at the end. I don't think that is a productive way to win. It's never worked out for UCF. 2006, Stephen Moffitt and Kyle Israel split time. They didn't go to a bowl game. 2011, Blake Bortles, Jeff Godfrey was a quarterback drama. They didn't go to a bowl. I just don't think there was too much drama at the quarterback position that has to be addressed next year, whether it be John Rice Plumlee being the guy. I think he will be at least to start the year next year. But they've got to figure that out.
Okay, Trace. So who are the quarterbacks for next year then? I'll admit you like your Gus Malzahn. Who are the guys?
Well, to piggyback here off of what Eric's saying, Coach Malzahn said during preseason camp in the fall, we're not going to have a quarterback controversy. He said it at different points. He asserted it. When I asked him a question post-game about now that Mikey, we're not going to have a quarterback controversy, yet it lingered out there throughout the year. And are we going to go into spring camp, no matter the outcome of the bowl, asking if it's going to be Thomas Castellanos, who now has played in 5 games, and Coach Malzahn after the Tulane loss said, we're going to make sure Thomas gets, some play there in that Military Bowl. Really? I mean, do you want to put him back in that position that he was in a difficult position? This against maybe a good Duke team, right? You're going to put him in that position again. How is Thomas Castellanos or anyone else going to unseat John Rice Plumlee? Look what he did on the ground. And Coach Malzahn said, well, he hadn't played quarterback in a while. And you said earlier, Mark, well, he just was playing well in that game throwing. Maybe he just got better as a passer. Okay. Maybe over the course of the season, for all of the excuses that he hadn't played, that he was a wide receiver, that he runs the ball, he still needed reps at quarterback. And maybe he just got out of his head a little bit. He just had to throw the ball. He didn't have to think. And maybe he got better along the way. And watching football, you blame the quarterback when the wide receiver didn't run the route properly, or the wide receiver didn't get separation and get open. And so this team contributed to 4 losses. It's on coaching, it's on players, it's on talent acquisition. There's a lot of things that contribute. You are what your record says you are. And it didn't help that this quarterback thing lingered all year long. Mikey was never Gus's guy from a style standpoint, not his recruit. Mikey, I wish you well. But as we've seen in the transfer portal, 1,000+ guys or whatever it is now, 28% land somewhere else. Jalen Robinson, talented wide receiver, who's got some transfers in his career, Oklahoma, UCF, Ole Miss, 5 catches. I think 5 catches, 28 yards. Okay, so it doesn't always work out. I wish all these guys well, but just statistically, with 9 guys now in the portal, not all of them have found greener grass.
Okay, in a perfect world, is Dylan Gabriel still the quarterback of this team this season?
No, he did. He had his own issues at Oklahoma. In fact, we'll see. We may or may not see him in a few weeks here. Ironically enough, in the bowl game against Florida State. You all talk about UCF ties. Look no further than Oklahoma and FSU, and both sides have UCF ties. But no, I just don't think that's what's going to work. That's part of the college football landscape today, Mark. Guys move around all the time. That's why there was excitement out of Florida State when Jordan Travis announced he's coming back for another year, because that could become more of a rare thing. And to go back to Trace's point about, I agree about what he said about John Rice Plumlee. He hadn't played a lot of experience at quarterback. I thought he did get better. I think he showed signs. I think he'll be a lot better next year as a starter versus this year. It'll be another year under system. It reminds me a lot of Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis last year, in fact, went through this drama with Mackenzie Milton at Florida State, and it cost him a bowl game, in my opinion. This year, everybody knew it was Jordan Travis's team, and they had the great year. I'm not saying that John Rice will end up being Jordan Travis, but I do think he could be better. And I think in the long run, if that's correct, then this gamble by Gus was proven to be correct because he got his guy for 2 years in the long run. It'll benefit him, especially going into the Big 12, which is going to be a doozy of a league for this team to recover, really fight for a bowl game eligibility next year with the schedule they're going to have.
Okay. Transfer portal was Monday. Trace, who left the program on Monday?
Well, guys that have not for the COVID year would have run out of eligibility anyway in Ryan O'Keefe and Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste. And certainly at linebacker, you're concerned about that position. I think you can find wide receivers, growing them within your own system, or certainly finding them in the portal. Devontae Brown, cornerback, he wanted to play on Sundays, didn't show up a lot on Saturdays during his tenure at UCF. I mean, really, did he distinguish himself? A serious loss. I mean, if you look portal over portal, who UCF lost last year and who they picked up, and that UCF continues to be a good destination, you have to imagine that they're going to land some guys that fill some holes. And remember, the long-term plan is to recruit to be in the Big 12. So early signing day is coming up. Let's see who UCF thinks, if they can land their targets and have a good recruiting class going into their first year in the Big 12. And let's just start to be realistic. I think, as I said earlier, sometimes 12-0, that 17 year has ruined everybody. For everything's got to be perfect. Get out of your head that you're going to the Big 12 and you're going to be perfect. You should hope maybe you get into one of the Big 12's many bowl tie-ins. So shoot for 6, and if you surpass 6, good. But get out of your head. You're going 12-0.
Okay, Eric Lopez, are you ready for this bowl game coming up at the end of the month?
So I'll be real honest with you. Selfishly, I'm happy they're playing in this bowl game because I'm benefiting from this professionally, because I will be filling in on UCF basketball more than likely as a result of this, because they play in the same day as the football game.
What a me guy. You're a me guy, as George O'Leary would say.
Well, yeah, no. What are you going to do? You got to take care of experience. But look, they're going to have a good time. Washington, D.C. is fun. This is the best case scenario for a bowl game. I knew they were going to be out of state. It just so happens they get Duke. Duke had a good year, 8-4. Mike Elko is the new head coach. He left. He was the defense coordinator at Texas A&M. You've seen what's happened at Texas A&M since Mike Elko left. Duke will be ready for this game. And I think for UCF, they're going to try to get a 10th win, try to get some experience. I don't know what players are going to be left to play because we haven't even brought up Devon Wilson declaring for the NFL draft. So Trace might actually be in the secondary starting up there for the game. He may not be able. He might not only cover the game, but actually play in the game. But
I can miss tackles just like anybody else, Eric.
That's a good point. So you fit right in. So look, it's a tricky matchup. I'm not saying everybody's going to be fired up about it. It's a Wednesday 2:00 kick.
Likely cold.
Little cold. I'm not sure everybody's going to go out of the way. I will say there's a lot of compliments about the place over there in that area in Annapolis. People that have gone in the past. Trace, I think you've gone in the past when they played Navy.
Great town. Right. And proximity to DC from a fan perspective, other than perhaps the cold, but certainly people like the change of seasons. It's in that holiday period of time. There are a lot of great places to see in DC, and Annapolis is great to tour and walk around. So if you have a couple of days there, you'll enjoy yourself.
Yeah, but we're not fired up like we were a year ago when we're playing Florida. But we are going to try to get revenge for Zion and Coach K. We haven't forgotten that 2019 NCAA Lake tournament game.
Even a UCF win, I do not think brings back all of what that loss was in basketball. So a smidge of revenge.
Not looking forward to those clips being aired during that football game.
Maybe they will be. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
No, I just want to tell both of you, thank you so much for all your help. I've had so much fun doing this segment with both of you guys every single week. It's been a pleasure. So I really appreciate it, guys.
It's been a pleasure, Mark, talking to you and Trace. This has been a blast this year, talking the ups and downs of UCF this year.
Yes, thank you both. I've enjoyed this segment, and perhaps we'll have opportunity to get together again, either around the bowl or after the bowl.
Yeah. So now 9 months of hyping the Big 12. Is that?
No, I'm really taking to heart this. Perhaps we overhyped this team. I'm down on the 23 team. I don't know if they're going to win a game, and then they'll exceed my expectations.
Oh, yeah, they will. Guys, thank you so much and have a great holidays.
You as well.